Podcast. Good.
Bonjour.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whether you're
Yes.
listening live or after the fact. Well, if you're listening live, it's probably a specific time, depending on where you are. But
True.
hello, guys. Welcome back to What's the Word.
Good evening.
Hope you're all doing well. Let us know how you're doing if you're watching along live and are able to comment. Eamon, how have you been, mate? How's your week been?
This week has been a fantastic week.
All right.
This week has been...
I think you rated quite highly last week, so where are you going to put it this week?
I did. I mean, I don't think I could rate it as highly as last week.
All right, okay.
But
okay.
I'll give it a solid 11 out of 10.
Oh,
solid 11 out of 10. And there's one big reason why.
Go on.
And it's a certain somebody.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo has decided to come back to Manchester United.
That's true. It's happened.
Listen, right? It was very... so the night before there was all these rumors about, him coming to City and all this kind of stuff. And I was genuinely really upset about it. I was sending voice notes to Anna, 10-minute voice notes, being like, he's a traitor. I can't believe he's done this. And then the next morning we get the news that he's signed for Man United. I was like, yes! I was buzzing.
Traitor no more, eh?
It was just a great day. It was just a good day, So yeah, I mean, that's why it's just gone up, shot up. Old legs, I'm not going to have
Strong.
that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, sorry, week, mate. So
what
what about you?
Hate.
What about you?
I would say it's been an 8.5.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a good week.
That's quite high for you.
Yeah, that's quite high for me. Capped off with me and Mercy went away Friday and Saturday. Went to RSC in Stratford. Saw a play, The Comedy of Errors. It was brilliant. It was hilarious.
Nice.
It's probably now one of my favourite Shakespeare plays, I would say.
Nice.
I'd say it's up there. And we saw a bunch of people. It was just good. You know what I mean? It's just it's a tiny little day and a bit getaway, and it was great. It's brilliant. So it's not quite a 10, even though it was really good, because I'm saving that for when we got the keys. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
I've got to rein it in.
Yeah. I respect that.
Yeah. So
I just go ham.
It was top tier, and now we're what do we do for bank holiday? Because now we're
yeah, true, yeah.
Forgot about all that.
What are you guys up to a bank holiday? Let us know. Put us in the comments if you've got anything nice you're doing tomorrow. Bank holiday Monday. I'm
actually trying to persuade her to let us to go quad biking. You can go quad biking for 2-3 hours, 90 quid.
Where?
Lunch break included. Oh, there's a bunch. I don't know where they are. I just looked on the website and saw.
Okay, so
it's available.
outdoor kind of quad biking, outdoor.
Off
roading or in just in
off roading. It would be it would be basically you're just in this massive woodlands field area, and you literally just go around. Or you can get it's not quite quad bikes, but they're buggies.
Yeah.
You can get those as well instead. Joe saying quad biking in the comments. Come on, Joe, help me convince Mercy. Great. So, cool cue of the week.
Yeah.
We'll see about this one. I don't know if I've picked yet, so.
Neither
Eamon, would you rather have the ability to move things with your mind, or the ability to read minds? It's all mind focused.
Okay.
You got to choose how you're doing it,
or not.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
What sort of things can I move anything with my mind? Is a big, massive building or all that kind of stuff. Okay.
The parameter will be that whichever one you choose, you have to train it up. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So it's not going to be straight away you're really good. For example, the read mind ones, a classic is when they first get the power. They struggle to filter out all the noise, all the voices, so you're just bombarded. or like the telekinesis one. Like if you try and lift something too heavy for what you can do at that time, like you could damage yourself. So those are the kind of, I feel like those are sensible parameters, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Joe's obviously just gone straight in there.
I know Joe's gone read minds.
Why? Let us know. Let us know why. Because for me, I think reading minds is just like, I just don't know if I could do it. I think that's just too much, like, too much information. I don't think I'd want someone to read someone's mind when they're thinking about me, because I'm like, is it going to be bad? You know. But I think moving things in your mind, because it's just the Force from Star Wars, right? And true story. I read minds.
Wow, interesting comment there.
I mean, like,
someone's saying I can already read minds, so I may as well move things as well.
That means every time I'm around Mama Hongo, I'm just going to sort of just really keep. But when I was like 6 years old, I loved Star Wars. I was like 6 years old. I remember praying to God like every night to give me the Force. I was like, God, give me the Force. I'll use it to.
How did that go?
More. It didn't go well at all. Honestly.
No, it didn't go.
Like, so yeah, I mean, I've got to say, move things in my mind, because it just reminds me of the Force, Star Wars. I think I don't really want to read people's minds. I think that's too much. I don't like what comes out people's mouths. Never mind what's in their head. Do you know what I mean?
Just want a mute world.
It's me out. We've got a few move things, you know.
I know. Yeah, we do.
Maybe I could record the music in my head without having to play or sing. I don't really think that's how it works.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it works. You'd still have to be able to actually play the stuff, innit? You just don't have to touch the guitar.
Yeah.
Physically,
you won't have to. You won't have to click play or like record or anything like that. Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. You just.
What about you?
This is really hard. I think this is hard. You know. I'm trying to think what. At the moment, I'm leaning towards move things. Because at the moment it's a bit more practical in my mind.
Yeah.
But I feel like reading minds would be more advantageous in the long run.
For what though? Advantageous for what?
Do you know what I mean? Just like you'd completely understand where everyone is coming from in all aspects.
So, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so then in one sense, like you can always tailor your approach towards people, knowing like so and so is thinking this. So if I want to like ingratiate myself with them or whatever it is, like. I can just like, do you know what I mean? I know I can either be really direct or I can just like swing it in such a way that like I know what's going on. I feel like that kind of makes sense.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I don't know. I just think it'd be like, how does it work? Can you just sort of, do you have to be in like a certain mile radius to sort of be able to?
Oh yeah, it would have to be someone. It would be like, I don't know, maybe like a 5 mile radius. I feel like that's all right, innit? Or maybe a mile. 5 miles might be a bit wild. Yeah, that's. I was realizing that's like already like more than half of Oldham. Yeah, let's say 5 mile radius. Yeah, I think I'll probably do that. It will be horrible the first like until I'm able to like filter it out. But I feel like I could use it for more things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just a bit out there, though, isn't it?
It is. It's a hard one, but you know, thinking of superheroes, I like clever superheroes who are able to like think their way out, and I feel like that's kind of like that route, isn't it?
It just reminds me of Charles Xavier from X-Men, and I always thought he's a bit creepy. Like you can talk in your head without you even realizing. It's just weird.
Well, I don't know if that is part of the. I'm assuming that's not part of what we're going for. But yeah, I think I've convinced myself to go for read minds out of nowhere.
It would be pretty good if like you were a lawyer or something.
Yeah, you know, like I feel like they're or any negotiation thing that you're in. Yeah. Like it's no longer a negotiation, is it?
Yeah.
It's basically you deciding whether or not you're like how far you want to go, because you already know where they're coming from.
See, like
so you can decide, like, is this a waste of time, or am I going for what I'm going for? Do you know what I mean?
I'm kind of feeling the reading the minds thing now.
Oh, come on!
I don't think.
Come on, me and Joe are swinging you around.
I Because of Star Wars, I still have to go for moving things, you know. That's
yeah, but don't forget, like part of the Force is it's not quite reading minds, but you know, Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah, so I'll do that. No.
Yeah, I'm going for. I'm sticking with my current guns. I'm going read minds. So we'll have to do a team up so we can have the best of both.
Sounds good, mate. Anyway, what about the minds you don't want to know? Well, you can block them out. That's what he's saying. You can learn to sort of block.
Yeah, you can learn. You can learn to block them out completely.
But what if you read a mind of someone you want to read and you don't like what you find? Ooh.
Hey, that's part of the hazard. That's the hazard of the pilot. That's the thing. Yeah, that could happen. But at the same time, what if you try and move something and like you injure your brain because you tried it too much, and like now you got a bloody nose or whatever? I mean, it's crazy. You know.
End of the day, all hypothetical. So
yeah, no, it's not.
Anyway, moving on swiftly. Topic time. As you guys will have seen from the title of the video and from the social media we put up, talk about the lessons from the life of Jesus.
Wow, no small topic.
No small. And the thing for me, right, I think that I've come at it from, when I've approached this, I've come at it from a perspective of, Rain's at the door, she's knocking. Hello, Rain. She'll come in. I've approached this from the perspective of, you know, these are the things that I think in my life I've taken from Jesus's life. Do you know what I mean? Like these are some principles that I've taken, that I've implemented in my life. And obviously it's not all the things because we don't have time to go through all the things. So this is three things that I think very simple, very easy, that I've seen this about Jesus and I've implemented this in my life. And I think obviously sense. At some point we should do a part 2 where you want to go through a couple of things where what you've taken from Jesus' life and sort of implemented into your life, and maybe sort of a few other times, because there's so much we could say, because you know you lived a good life. Do you know what I mean? We didn't mess around. You did, yeah. But you know this thing as well, like I think is something that we can sort of kind of gloss over a lot, you know, because it's kind of like a Sunday school thing or a youth thing, you know, like lessons from the life of Jesus, and it's kind of more seen as a more simpler thing. But in reality, you know, the simpler things are, for me, the best things. I love the simple things. You know, just because I talk about the ABCs don't mean I don't know nothing about the XYZs. You know what I mean?
Hey!
Just the way it is.
Nice, that.
You know, Reinhard Bonnke said it, so I can't claim it. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. I thought you came up with that off the top of your head.
I can't claim off Reinhard. You know what I mean? He's a legend. Anyway, but you know, this is something that we can't neglect, and I encourage you obviously to read your Bibles in general. Read the life of Jesus. Just read the Gospels. It can be quite nice reads, quite easy reads, and you can sort of get a real understanding of how Jesus lived and the way that we should live as Christians. Because his life was an example for us. His life was an example for us that this is how you can live. This is a way that you can engage with people. This is a way you can engage with me. This is a way you can do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's so important that we grasp, take all of these things. So 3 things from I've taken from Jesus' life. We'll just talk about them, and obviously, you know, bing bang bosh, we'll all go home happy. But the first thing that I've got to mention is alone time. Alone time. Jesus often spent time alone with God. Like this, and like if you've spoken to me recently, you know that this is something that I've been hammering quite a lot recently.
That's true.
Preachers and things like this. It's just something that's been really, really fresh for me. And like there's many verses like this, so I just picked just one out just so I can highlight this, prove to you that it's in the Bible. It's in Mark 1:35. It says, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, went off to a solitary place where he prayed." And you see, these little verses are like dotted around the Gospels, and they're so easy to miss because like they're at the start of like a big sort of story. Like just before Jesus is about to do something mega, you know, just before he's doing that, he just goes off in the morning to go pray. It's something you could just miss because it's just in the introduction and things. But this is so key and so important for us. Like this guy, the Son of God, fully man, which is a mystery, went into a solid place on his own outside of the disciples into that, to go and pray, that he sacrificed his time. He obviously had a very busy schedule, but he sacrificed a bit of that so he can go and spend time with God alone on his own. This is really, really vital for us. And obviously, like, I encourage you to go listen to what I preached last week, because this sort of went into a bit more detail about sort of what this means, what it looks like, some of the things that can happen when you go and spend some time alone with God. But, you know, you can be strengthened, you can hear his voice, you can read scripture, you can do all these things, take yourselves outside of your busy lives, your busy schedules, your work, you know, all these different things. And ultimately, I think that Jesus was, the real key for me that I've taken from these things is that Jesus was he was a very busy guy. Like Jesus, he didn't do
calendar.
9 to 5. Yeah, he didn't do 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Do you know what I mean? That's not the kind of work schedule that he was doing. You know, I think it's the very last verse of John. It says that if all the things that Jesus said or did were recorded, all the books in the world could not contain all the things that he said and did.
Yeah.
Basically, you know.
And his ministry was really only like 3 years. You know what I mean? So that's like he's probably doing like a year's worth of stuff for some people in a day.
Yeah, and like the guy was relentless. Like he talked to people. He loved people. He ate with people. He preached and he healed. And he did all these different things. You know, like some places says that, you know, you'll go to a place and they brought all the people who were sick to him. All of them. It's like the whole town, literally, they're just getting all their sick, all the people that are sick, they've got injuries, whatever it is, bring it to Jesus. So obviously he's been there for a while, laying hands on people. You know, he didn't just sort of go right, line up and then just run past them and sort of, like slap them, and that was the sort of their way of doing it. He would have spent time in each every single one. He would have. So the fact that he got up very early in the morning, while it was still dark. This is like I don't know what time this is specifically.
That's very easy in winter, very hard in summer.
Yeah, like you're not talking like 8 a.m. Do you know what I mean? You're talking very, very, very early. Everyone else is asleep. Everybody else is doing their own thing, and everyone else is asleep, dreaming. You know, getting their lie in, and he's there on his own in this solitary place, pressing in prayer. This is so vital for us, because it doesn't matter who you are. You know, you don't. Excuse me.
Right,
you don't have to be. Here's a cup of tea. Who's coming back up?
Eamon getting choked up there.
You don't, like, ultimately, you don't have to be in full-time sort of church leadership to be doing this. You don't have to be in sort of like you don't have to be leading a specific area of the church. You don't have to be like a youth leader or something like that to be doing this. This is something vital for all of us as believers.
Yeah.
This is something that is going to serve you. This is what I was saying last week. But this is not something that you have to do. No one's cracking the whip. You know, your elder is not texting you, be like, have you spent time with God this morning? But ultimately, this is something that's going to serve you and it's going to build you up in your life. This is vital. This is important. This is something that Jesus did regularly. This guy who was the Son of God got up early in the morning. I didn't even say early. It says very early.
Still dark.
Still dark.
I'm just trying to think about how early would it be dark there. Maybe I should try and research it out. But that's, you know what I mean, that's very early. And he left his house as well. Like, obviously, a lot of us pray in our house. Yeah. But that's like an extra step of removing your comfort. Yeah. And you know, a lot of like business people say, or like, you know, people who are kind of coaching on like self-discipline and stuff say one of the hardest things to do is to wake up and leave your bed in the morning, like early. Because you wake up and, you know, you're still a little bit sleepy. Yeah. You're in your bed, your pillow's nice. And you have to think of like, I have like, if I got up now, like I'd have to leave all this. And like Jesus didn't just leave his bed. He was like, I'm getting out of the house. And I'm going to like somewhere where no one's going to find me. Yeah. And that's the thing, like I encourage you to do that if you've got the capability of doing that, even if you've got a car or something. Just go to the local park, for instance, or something like that. Just take yourself way outside of that comfort zone, as you were saying, that comfortable space that you usually sit in, and do what Jesus did, and just pray. Just find this solitary place where no one's going to find you, no one can bother you, no one can, you know, no one's sort of getting up and be like, oh, you know, like someone's waking up, like, I don't know, like my sister's waking up or something like that, and she's making noise downstairs, making breakfast, like stuff like that can be really distracting. So take yourselves outside of that.
Just spend some time with God. This is so important for Jesus' life. Like, this is something that repeatedly he did. You see this just sprinkled just every now and then. And I don't think it was just something that he did every now and then. I think it was something that was a regular part of his life. Excuse me. Something that was like constantly, consistently, you know, part of his life. Something that he genuinely did day in and day out. And he obviously tailored it around his schedule, because sometimes, you know, he might have been up really late doing stuff, teaching, whatever it is. Sometimes he may have sort of started really early. I don't know. But ultimately, he sort of looked at his schedule and said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to sacrifice something to spend some time with God, to worship the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, worship is sacrifice. It's got to cost us something. We've got to come with something. And sometimes that means waking up like an hour earlier than we usually do. It's brutal. It's horrible. You want to stay in bed. You just want to have that extra hour and all that kind of stuff. But you come to the Lord and spend that time with him. It doesn't have to be in the morning, but that's just sort of an easy time to do it. But like, spend some time, alone time with God on your own. This is something that Jesus did, and it was vital for what he said and what he did, and how he acted and how he interacted with people during his day. And this is something that, you know, you can go there and you can be strengthened. Somewhere you can go to listen to the Lord's voice and get his guidance and things. Somewhere you can go and just sit, read your Bible, and just sort of learn and just grow in that. There's somewhere you can just sort of cast all your worries and things like that to God. I know that he's listening. This is something that's just so vital for us as believers. And this is something that was just integral to Jesus's life, something that was integral to Jesus' ministry. So number one, alone time. Spend some time with God. Spend some time alone in a solitary place. Warner, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's probably one of the most interesting aspects of Jesus, because he like, as you said, like he sometimes it would be at different points of the day, and there'd often been times where he would have like a tremendous demand on him. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just been ministering to this massive crowd, spent ages with them, and they're still people trying to be like, hey, Jesus, come on, we've got a few more things that we need to do. And he'd literally just like sneak off and just go off and pray. And all his disciples were looking for him. Like, who's seen Jesus? Who's seen Jesus? And he's just like, he said, I just need to get away from all of you and pray. And I think that's I would say, from, if you read the Gospels, that was probably the biggest key to him being able to do the things that he actually did. Because, you know, there's another point where he says that I only do what I see my Father doing. And to have that level of confidence that your actions are a direct correlation of what God has said to you. Like, you need to know that this morning, like, I know what God wants me to do today, and I'm going to go do it. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you'd be like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's such a bold statement that it can only
100%.
come from a place of, like, genuine investment, that it's just like, that's just the way it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine that it's probably something he did before he started his ministry.
100%.
And then, you know, when he was baptized with the Holy Spirit, it went up another level. Because, you know, we know that he, like, knew the scriptures really well, studied them, and all that jazz. So, yeah, I think that's a strong one, mate. Strong one. These are three things that have just been vital, recently, just vital for me. Something that's been really sort of hard hitting for me. And like this one, as you know, from what I've been preaching on, what I've been speaking on, whatever it is, like this is number one. This is just numero uno, top tier. Yes. So second one is relationships with people. Like, Jesus was really good with people, you know? Like, Jesus was really good at just relating to other people. And, you know, he spent Do you reckon Jesus would be classed as an introvert or an extrovert?
See, I thought about this when I was preparing.
Did you? Oh, that's interesting.
I thought he maybe a mix of both, because he liked to sort of take that solitary time away, things like that. But he also enjoyed time with people. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think I'd probably go with, like, you know, he exhibited a bit of both.
Yeah.
I don't know. one of the big ones is like an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you're around people, you like people can assume. It's like some people think I'm an extrovert, and I'm like, you do not. That is not the case.
Yeah,
I do not need to be here at all. And then you can go off by yourself and just you know what I mean. So maybe that's what he was.
I don't know, but regardless, he was good with people. Whether
He was,
and I think he often spent time with tax collectors, prostitutes, lepers, Samaritans. People who were seen as like outcasts or like on the what you call it, marginalized. That's the word I was looking for. Like marginalized by society.
And also the taboo people that if people saw you hanging out with such and such a person, they'd all be like whispering behind your back, like, can you believe so and so's like hanging out with this person? That's disgusting.
What I find most interesting as well is that Jesus, everyone has this view of Jesus that he's nice and cuddly and things like this. But sometimes Jesus didn't mince his words. You know what I mean? Jesus did not pull punches sometimes. You know what I mean? He would just say it how he sees it. And often some of his harshest words were directed towards the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious people, rather than these tax collectors and the prostitutes and all these people are sort of marginalized by them. And that's so important for us to understand, to sort of think about and grasp. And Jesus, I love the way that Mark 12, 30 and 31, he sort of sums up. The scribes come to him and say, "What's the greatest commandment?" And they're basically just trying to test him and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to catch him out. And he just says, "Love the Lord God with all your heart, your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength." And the second is love your neighbor as yourself. There's no greater commandment than these. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's, and I just find this just challenging at times. You know what I mean? It's so easy just to focus on yourself and have this sort of 2D kind of view of me. I've worked hard for this money, so I'm going to spend on myself. Or I've done this, so I'm going to focus on me. And it's so hard to even just look outside of ourselves. Never mind, love people outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
But Jesus did this really, really well, just how he interacted with people and how he loved people, and this is very contrary to, I think, a lot of what sort of society sort of kind of, especially in the Western world, is preaching today: self-love and self-care and all this kind of stuff. And you can become a billionaire if you yourself work hard, and all these things is all about you, what you can. And it's kind of just trying to sort of create this sort of blinkered view of life where you kind of just focus on yourself, your self-care, your work, you becoming a millionaire, you doing this, you doing that, you having this or having that. That is so you're just blocking everything else out. It's so hard to even let anyone else even in, never mind love them. And Jesus just sort of just says, love the Lord God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. But then love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah. Brutal. It's kind of it's look, and it's not the fact that self-care and looking after yourself and working hard and buying nice things. That doesn't mean that we have to throw that in the bin and that's not important. But it ultimately means that we can do that sort of stuff. But ultimately there is a requirement, there is a demand put on us to love other people. And Jesus did this perfectly by just loving the people that nobody else wanted to love. Yeah. Loving the people that just nobody else cared about. And I find this really, really challenging. I really, really do. And I think one of the best stories of this in Scripture is definitely my top 3 stories in the Bible.
All right. Wow. Hey. That's a bold statement, mate.
It is. I love this. It's in Luke, and it's where Jesus is invited to Simon the Pharisee's party.
Oh, yeah.
I love this, man. And he's invited to this party, and he's chilling. He's having a good time with Simon the Pharisee and
the Pharisee boys
and all these other Pharisee mates, and all of a sudden, this is probably an exclusive party. This is you've got to get an invitation, VIP only. And all of a sudden, this woman just runs in the room and just makes a beeline for Jesus' feet. She doesn't say hello. She doesn't go, "Hi guys." She doesn't get a drink and then socializes and goes for Jesus. She just runs in, goes for Jesus. I don't know how she got in. There must have been a bouncer or something checking tickets or something. But she just ran in, went straight for the guy's feet, Jesus' feet, and she's just crying, and these tears were on his feet. And she's using her hair to wipe his feet and to wash his feet, and then she was kissing his feet in these acts of worship. Incredible stuff. And like Simon just sort of says to himself in his head, he just so says, if this man were a prophet, she's judging Jesus already. Like that's like already, don't do that. But if this man were a prophet, he would know what type of woman this is, because she was a prostitute. And like he's basically just saying, like, this woman's dirty, she's disgusting, she's a prostitute. I'm the best. I'm a Pharisee. I'm cool. I've got Jesus in my house. And I'm sure all the other people were probably thinking the same thing. All the other guests were probably sat there just going, we all know who this woman is. We all know what type of woman this is. This is
like, Jesus, don't let her touch your feet.
Don't let her touch your feet. Like, she's going to make you unclean. But then Jesus mugs everyone off in the party. He says, nobody has offered to wash my feet when you came in. Nobody has kissed me when I came in. And it's like, he's trying to say, like, you could have done these things and I would have accepted this worship from you, but you didn't do it. And he's just loving on this person who's just in this act of just submission, just saying, I don't care about myself. I don't care about my reputation. I don't care about what you, Simon the Pharisee, thinks of me. I don't care about what any of the guests think of me. I am just going to come to Jesus and just love on him. And Jesus just says, go in peace. Your sins are forgiven. Like, and it's this beautiful, beautiful story, and there's so much I could say in it. But ultimately, I think the thing that I find just beautiful about it is the fact that I'm sure Simon and the Pharisees and the Pharisees and the guests who were there were probably looking at the bouncers like, kick this lady out. Let's what's she doing here? But he just sort of was like, no, she can stay exactly where she is. He just loved this woman that nobody else wanted to love. He accepted her in, that he brought her. He didn't care about sort of going, okay, let's just go to the side, or let's just go to the corner, or let's talk outside. He was just like, right in the middle of the party, like, you can stay in this spot. You're accepted where I am. And this is I think this is one of the many, 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 many stories of just Jesus loving people. Often you see Jesus going somewhere and he says that he had compassion on them. This compassionate heart to just love people who are in a certain way or doing a certain thing, or even just sort of normal people. I'm pretty sure, like, it was when he fed the 5,000, he says he had compassion on them. He had compassion on them, so he said, bring up. And like, it's even the fact that these guys weren't, or they weren't just 5,000 prostitutes or something like that. They were normal people. But, it's the fact that he just loved them as well. And it's so easy to love your church friends, and it's so easy to love your family members and your circles around you. But then outside of that, it's so hard to love them. I preached this not long ago when I was talking about the body of being part of a body and what that looks like. And if one rejoices, we all rejoice. And if one is what's the word again? If one rejoices, we all rejoice.
If one is grieving, we all grieve.
Yeah. And
if one like does well, we celebrate with them.
Yeah. And like in that passage, it talks about, it says that the hand can't say to the eye, I don't need you. And this part, and it's ultimately like in just in church we're talking about now, but even in just outside of that, there are so many people who are going to annoy you, so many people who are going to hate you, so many people who are going to sort of really sort of like grind your gears, but you have to love them. It doesn't mean that you have to interact with them all the time and be best mates with them or be fake with them or anything like that, but you have to. You just have to love them. We talked today about forgiveness and the importance of like not letting anything take root and take hold. And sometimes you just have to sort of just forgive and love people, even though they've wronged you. I've had this before when I was in Bible school, and this is obviously with Christians, and obviously Jesus talking about your neighbor being everyone and anyone, really. But when I was in Bible school, two people decided saying some stuff that just really got to me, like just genuinely really did my head in, and I was really annoyed. I was like, I'm packing my bags, I'm going back to Oldham. I was like, bun Bible school, I'm done. I just really wasn't happy. And the Lord spoke to me and just sort of said one of them, you need to go up to them and tell them that they said this, but you forgive them and it's all good. But they said the other one, you need to write them a card and give them 20 quid. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it was this act of just sort of loving them and just saying, okay, I'm annoyed that they annoyed me or all this kind of stuff. So that person, I went the next day and I just sort of went, hey, can you just grab your secretary? You said this, and it kind of really, really got to me a little bit and all this kind of stuff. Just want to let you know that it's all good. I forgive you. I just wanted to make you aware. And they were like, oh my gosh, so sorry. And I was like, yeah, no worries. Other person, 20 quid in a card, nice message, gave it to them. They were like, so sorry, like, whatever, it's all good. And like ultimately, like that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. It sounds easy, you know what I mean? But it's so hard just to love people, even when they've annoyed me, even when something is going on, even when everyone else was and that's really what Jesus is saying. So when you see someone who's homeless on the street, it's so easy just to ignore them and things like this. And obviously, there's people say don't give them money and all this kind of stuff. But even if it's just, you go into Tesco and there's a homeless man sat outside Tesco, do you want a sandwich? Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that can be so countercultural and so like out there. But it's something that Jesus was homing in on, something that Jesus did. And it's something that's so challenging to me, like genuinely, like I can just talk about it now. I'm like, I'm challenging myself and speaking to myself and being like, how can I do this better? How can I love people better? How can I love my family, my friends, my church, people I relate with in church, or people in the workplace, or in the pub, whatever it is? How can I relate to them well? How can I love them? Because it is hard, but this is something that Jesus did. It was part of his life, and it's something that we need to implement. Warner, anything to say?
Yeah, I think like that's something that's such a challenge, isn't it? Because it's not even because obviously like we're told to love our neighbors, and we're also told to love our enemies, and there's that idea of like you need that part of being like Jesus means loving people even if they shouldn't be loved. Like, do you know what I mean? Like logically they shouldn't be loved. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for the church and just like individual Christians is how well do we love people who aren't Christians? How well do we love other Christians? Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's
bring it
harder sometimes.
Bring it as close to home as possible. I think it's really tough, and it's a lot like what we heard today this morning. The preach was all about how forgiveness. When God says to forgive, he isn't saying forgive based off anything that you may receive because of that. Do you know what I mean? He's basically saying forgive from faith, which means forgive based off the fact that you have a confidence and a belief and a hope that in me, God, and that I am good, not based off the fact that the person might change, not based off the fact that people like you might feel nice about forgiving them, not based off the fact that they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm like none of that. He's just like, just forgive, that's it. And the command for love is kind of like that, of like, it doesn't really, Jesus isn't like, well, I have a love threshold, and once you reach that love threshold, like I'm done, like I'm not gonna love you no more. And I think both of them feed into each other as well, because you have to be able to look past that person's outwards, whatever that makes people. Do you know what I mean? So, like, for example, this woman, I'm pretty sure Jesus would have known that she was a prostitute. He may have even seen her around, like in the town that he'd been in. But he decided to approach her based off not how she portrayed herself, but who God really saw her as. And that's the massive challenge, and it's ultimately I think it's also encouraging, because I always think like if Jesus could do it and he faced all that so much pressure, like we can do it too. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like he didn't just face. He faced pressure of like all the religious people. He faced pressure from his own disciples. Like even like the woman at the well, when he's talking to her and the disciples come back, they're a bit like, Jesus, why are you talking to this woman who's like, we're not so. A, you're talking to a woman. B, you're talking to a woman from a place that we don't like them at all. And he consistently showed like that. One of his main things was to love people, and to particularly love people that the general public society kind of scored and like turn away and think like you're like, I don't want to be associated with you. Like those are the people who Jesus loved, and you could tell because those are some of the people who would invite him to parties. You know what I mean? Invite him round for dinner. And just, I always, whenever I read stuff like that, I always think how many church leaders would go to like, do you know what I mean? Like if we saw it, a church leader going in
true.
what the modern equivalent, like, do you know what I mean? Like having dinner in a drug den.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not for an outreach event. Like
Yeah.
he's just been invited by the people who live there. Do you
Yeah.
want to come have dinner? Or hey, we're having a party. Do you want to come?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the
Yeah.
equivalent of what happened. So yeah, I think it's so interesting and challenging, but at the same time, it shows like that really is who God is.
Yeah. True.
And so yeah, that's what it's all about.
Solid. I just got a bit.
Numero 3.
I had some
Got a
spicy
bit of
chicken
tea.
earlier. Spicy chicken earlier. And it's just like a bit, like when a bit of like chili comes back up.
Yeah.
It just gets lodged in your throat. Anyway, I'm conscious of the time, so let's wrap this bad boy up. So number 1, alone time. Spend alone time with God. Like
Numero uno.
Numero dos. Love people. I forgot it for a second.
Love people. We just did that.
Love people. Challenging, I know, and it's challenging for me, for Warner, for pretty much every Christian, but it's something that's so vital for us. And number 3 is submission. This is really key.
Hey, these been some big boy ones, isn't it?
And like I could have gone down the route of like sort of like submission to church leaders, whatever, but like just to God in general, to be honest. And like ultimately, it's Jesus didn't just go, okay, right, let's see what we want to do today. Come on, disciples, let's get on the whiteboard and do a big diagram and let's have some ideas. Come on, let's go. It's what we were saying earlier, that he spent time with God, he listened, and as you said earlier, reading the big verse, very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. And now this verse itself is lodged in the context of he's healing on the Sabbath. The Pharisees are like, you can't heal on the Sabbath. That's wrong. That's against the Torah. Oh my gosh. And then he's just like, hey, he's like, I'm submitted to God. I'm doing God's work. So if I'm doing God's work, then it's all good. It's all good, baby. You know what I mean? And like, it's just ultimately this act of submission to not go, okay, disciples, let's figure out what we're doing. But I can only do what I see my Father doing. It's this act of just understanding that it's not about me building myself up. It's about what's the Father doing? What's his vision? What's his perspective on this? How does he want us to proceed with this, and then going along with this? And I love this.
Yeah.
It's like in Galatians 5:25. It says, "If we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit." And it's basically this thing of what Jesus was doing, what Paul's telling us to do is, keep in step with the Spirit. Like, change your pace to the pace of the Spirit. And so many times we can spend so long trying to sort of do things ourselves and strategy and planning and this, and those things are great. And there's genuinely nothing wrong with that. God can use those things, but ultimately, like, we've got to be able to lay that down if God says otherwise. Our opinions, our thoughts, our perspectives, our vision of what we think is best or what we think is the right way to go. God can use that. God can inspire that. God can use that. And but ultimately, if God says something else, we've got to be able to say, do you know what? I'm going to keep it. Living by the Spirit and living with the Spirit is changing my pace to His pace, and coming in under submission and saying that I'm going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to do what you want me to say. I'm going to have this vision that you have for us, not ourselves. And I was listening to a podcast about a year and a bit ago, and it was with Christine Kane and Corey Russell. Most of you know Christine Kane more than Corey Russell, but Christine Kane said this, and I think it was something to do with Gen Z. And she said we have a generation that's really, with social media and things like that, in reference to that, we have a generation that's so good at marketing themselves, but none of them are marked. And I was just like, oh my God. Because like ultimately we're very good at sort of social media and strategy and planning and all these kind of things. And they're wonderful and they're great. But ultimately we need to be marked by God. Like we talked about earlier about alone time. It's exactly what you were saying, that he could step out every single day with that confidence saying, I'm only doing what I see my Father doing. Because he spent time, because he spent time away and alone in that solitary place to just hear what God had to say and listen to the perspective and what he wants to do, and ultimately living that out. And for us, I think this is so important, so key for us in what we're doing. And I think, we could spend so long trying to plan things and sort things out and all these kind of things. And ultimately, that's wonderful. It's great. Can be inspired by God, but we've got to lay it down. And I just had sort of two stories that I heard. I thought were sort of two great examples of this. And they're sort of quite sort of big, I think. So it's not really so personal, but I was listening to one by a guy called Billy Humphrey, and he is the leader of International House of Prayer in Atlanta. And he was saying that every single year, at the start of the year, they have like a strategy meeting. They plan to strategize what we're going to do. So they have like, social media people there. They have the worship team there. They have the pastoring team there. They have the stewarding team there. They have this team, that team, that team. All the team leaders come together, sit in a room for like 3 days, and they just plan for the year. And they work out budgets, how they're going to help each other out, and how they can bleed into each other, whatever. And calendars and all this kind of stuff. And this is what they do. And they just sort of brainstorm ideas. And he was saying that they do this every year. And that one year, like the weekend before it's due to start, the Holy Spirit spoke to him and said, just throw it out. I don't want you to spend any time planning. I don't want you to spend any time doing strategy. I want you to spend those couple of days you would spend planning, spend it with me. So he was like, okay. So he rocked up on the Monday. He sat everyone down. He's like, guys, just close your laptop.
Everyone with their notepads.
Yeah, everyone's been doing loads of prep, and he was like, put it away. So we're going to spend time with God. And for like 3 days or something, we just spent time all day just in worship and in prayer, reading scriptures, all these things. And the Lord just started to just deposit over the course of these days, deposit these different things that he wants them to do in these different areas. And obviously, a lot of it most of it wasn't fleshed out or anything. They had to flesh it out, but ultimately they had a vision of, okay, with social media, this is what we're going to do. With small groups, this is how we want to proceed, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said that from there, they rode a wave of about 6 months where everything they did, like God was just in it powerfully. Like people were turning up, things were happening. It was amazing. But he said it's always come from this point of just saying, God, we're going to throw out what we want to do and just say, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to do? And as well as that, another story is Upper Room. You guys know I love Upper Room. If you listen to this podcast, they're the best. They do loads of stuff online. So they do live streams pretty much all week, and they put out albums and all this kind of stuff. They're really, really good. But they a couple of years ago they were sort of growing as a church, and they were sort of seeing a lot of stuff happening in worship, and they wanted to start filming it and live streaming and doing all this stuff. Doing the stuff that they do now. So they came up with a strategy, they came up with a plan, they sat down, they bought all the equipment, they figured out how to use it, they had personnel to run it, they had sorted everything out. All they had to do was literally just put it into practice. And God said to them, and the Lord spoke to the leader and just said, for 2 years, I don't want you to do anything on social media, anything in terms of live streaming or releasing anything, just for 2 years. But they had everything sorted, they had everything bought, they were literally ready to go. And so they put all their plans that they had on hold for 2 years and just went after God. And just in the normal meetings and things like that. And those 2 years, they said, was just so powerful. God met them in amazing ways. The church grew so fast. And that song, Surrounded, this is how I fight my battles, that one. That song came out of those 2 years, from that church, from one of the worship leaders there. And that's really, so when after the 2 years, the Lord was like, go ahead, go wild. And that plan that they had in place, they just picked it up and went, okay, let's put it into practice. They didn't even have to make any changes. But ultimately, they put out that song that came out of those 2 years, and obviously it blew them up, and they're massive now. But the point is the fact there's two very distinctive differences in those stories. One was literally God was like, abandon your plan. This is what I want you to do. And another one was, you've got your plan, just put it on hold for a second. Just come in line with my pace for a second. And ultimately, for us, that submission of just saying, God, I have my plan, but I'm ready to throw it out in an instant, put it right in the bin. Or put it on hold, or just alter it slightly. And this is just like, this is vital for us. This is what Jesus did. He didn't do anything but what he saw his Father doing, and he just spent time just in prayer and just trying to understand, God, what is it that you want to do? Who do you want to impact today? What do you want to say? And for us, we can have all the go to every conference possible and like how to grow your church and how to do these marketing techniques to blow up your music and whatever. But ultimately, it's all that can work really well and God can bless it, but ultimately it's worthless if God's not in it. And we need to be people who can just submit under God. And as this verse says, I love it. If we live by the Spirit, let's all keep in step with the Spirit. Let's just ultimately just come down and adjust our pace to His pace. And that might mean throwing out your plan, throwing out what you have, or that might mean changing everything completely, or that might mean sort of putting your thing on hold, or that might mean going ahead with your plan that you have, because God's like, yeah, this is what I want you to do. But ultimately, that submission, just to say, God, I will do whatever you want me to do. Yes. So number one, numero uno, alone time. Spend time with God on your own. This is important. This is what Jesus did. Number two, love people. Challenging, hard, difficult, but vital. Number three, submission. Get under submission with God. Just do what he says, because whatever he says is going to be good. It's going to work out. So just do it. That is all I have for today.
Brilliant. Hey, good job, mate. I enjoyed that. That was very good. Thank you so much, guys. If you're watching live, thanks so much. And if you've enjoyed and you're listening to the podcast version of this or after the fact, please, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, leave us a review on podcasting services if you enjoyed it. And we'll see you again. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks so much.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye.